As part of our Mind-Body Connection series, we are going to look at the important need to give up the idea of a magic bullet to embrace the system and practice. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and we'll get back to you personally. In addition, you can join my weekly group membership meetings, reserve your place in one of my seminars, or purchase any of my Mind-Body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Now, without further ado, let's explore why giving up the hope for a magic bullet can actually free you up to find real solutions. Every sufferer of chronic pain or other symptoms invariably has the same wish: a magic bullet that would end the suffering once and for all, and in a way from which we could be completely safe for the rest of our lives. Of course you want that. We all want that. When we hear about book cures, it sounds like that. But it is very important that we recognize that that isn't what it is. A book cure is not a permanent solution to the problem. It's one step up from a placebo cure, which resolves the problem immediately in a temporary way, but rests on a faulty foundation because it requires a belief in something that isn't necessarily or even likely true. A book cure is based on real science and logic, at least as it pertains to Dr. Sarno's works and anyone who continues to follow his basic ideas closely. So it relies on the principles of full belief that can lead to a placebo-like function, but it is based in scientific fact and has no logical holes. But it also has a tendency to not last for every symptom we might have, because the second a new symptom comes up that confounds us or needs to assert its influence for any reason, each column describes one of the main reasons it might, we can feel back to square one. Magic bullets generally do not work so well, mainly for the reason that they would require a simple problem to have such a simple answer. But at the same time, we are often given an overly complicated picture of problems that can overwhelm and prevent our seeing where we can be more simplistic while still accurate. In the mind-body process, this is exactly what we see. The broad picture is actually quite simple, but managing it requires a depth of knowledge that initially seems quite daunting. My column system is designed to make this much smoother and clearer. The broad picture situation is simply that our emotions and thoughts can dictate what actually happens in our moment-to-moment physiology. That's it. So any attempts to complicate matters by calling such a truth into question are actually just a veiled form of doubt. This is a simple solution to a simple problem. Recognize the truth and you won't be stuck in an inaccurate viewpoint that makes things much worse. From any angle you look, your emotions and thoughts can indeed control your physiology. While we need to check with medical doctors to rule out anything life-threatening or with serious implications for our long-term health, almost everything else is a mind-body reaction. That part really is simple. The part that is more complicated comes in figuring out how to understand the specific mind-body experience and what to do about it. When a problem is complicated, a magic bullet not only isn't possible, but clinging to the hope for one often gets in the way of the solution. Here, this is exactly the case, and I'll show you why with the specifics. If you've been watching or listening to me for a while now, you'll recall how important I say it is to think about the mind-body process in terms of moment-to-moment experience. Because the mind's processes, emotional or cognitive, can change so much in our physiology of that moment, we're really never in the same place, even when we think we are. If we're staying in the same physiological experience, is there any real way to distinguish whether or not this happens because of a structural or purely physical reason versus the fact that our beliefs may simply remain unchanged? The only way to tell is to find out which treatments work. Note, it is not a conclusive finding to find which treatments do not work, unless you know why they didn't work. But a treatment that does work either does so because of the placebo effect or because it addresses the right problem. This is how we distinguish. If we challenge the long-standing thought processes and things start to change, we are either having a placebo reaction or it's the real deal. The science all points to our mind-body interventions being the real deal, and it makes sense logically all the more, because it is a mind-body intervention to address something in the mind. A purely physical intervention for this kind of problem is not only not going to be useful, but is missing the mark by a very wide margin. Regardless, all of the science and logic, including our everyday lived experience, shows that we are always changing moment to moment. It is paramount that we recognize this fact, because it is a complicating factor that makes a magic bullet solution an absolute impossibility in the details. Our moods change. The things we hear and see and sense in any number of ways change. Think about it. Are you ever really fully the same every day, or even within the hour? I know I'm not, and I don't think anyone else is either. We have a complex mind and a complex body as it pertains to the moment-to-moment experience, and this is why a sharp, organized system that can simplify accurately the complicated experience is so necessary. Again, for simplicity and accuracy, the overall problem is simple. We need the correct mind-body information to master the symptoms, but the details will require a more complex understanding. This is part of why so many haven't gotten better yet. Either they are being told it is simple, when it really isn't, without a system at least, or they are being told it is extremely complex, which is really only true if you don't understand it. There is no magic bullet that will take care of everything, because the moments are all different. But in a way, if you can look at the column system as being able to describe the whole mind-body experience from its broad aspects down to the very close details, we can get the same results as a magic bullet. The symptoms can be vanquished quickly and efficiently with one main action. It's just that the one main action has multiple parts to it, which makes sense given the complexity of the situation and its details. In other words, try not to get caught up in the wrong kind of magic bullet. If you're looking for an easy, simple magic bullet for a multifaceted, complex experience that relates to each individual mind, you won't find one. But why get hung up on that? You have a perfectly valid and useful bullet that isn't based on magic, but on science, logic, and not only that, but one that does simplify the complex in an accurate and crystal clear way once you've gotten the hang of it. If my system makes more and more sense as you go, this should be a good indication that you can trust that it will continue to become even clearer as you go. In that sense, good, accurate, effective learning is the only magic bullet you need. It might take more time to build, but that should give you all the more confidence that its solutions are real. I really hope you enjoyed this episode on giving up the search for a simple magic bullet in exchange for real solutions that aren't actually so hard after all. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below and we'll get back to you personally.